Have you ever created a rule you believed was right, then abandoned it because your child was the only person paying the social price? You delayed the smartphone, but every invitation moved into a group chat. You limited social media, but classmates discussed posts your child could not see. You protected bedtime, but every other phone remained active after midnight. On the outside, it looked like a family failing to maintain boundaries. Inside, it was one family trying to negotiate with an entire culture. Hi, I'm Sarah, and this is WiseMind Stories. The final argument of Jonathan Haidt's The Anxious Generation is not that parents need more courage, children need more discipline, or teachers need better classroom rules. It is that a collective problem requires a collective escape. No family should have to rescue childhood by swimming alone against an entire culture. To understand the trap, meet Grace Chen and her 12-year-old daughter, Olivia. Grace had planned to wait until high school before buying Olivia a smartphone. She gave her a basic phone that could call, send simple texts, and reveal her location during the walk home from school. For several months, the arrangement worked. Then Olivia's classmates created a group chat for a birthday sleepover. The invitation, schedule, jokes, and last-minute change of location all happened inside one app. Olivia never saw them. On Friday afternoon, she arrived at the original house carrying a sleeping bag. Nobody was there. The host's mother opened the door and explained that the group had moved to another parent's home because of a plumbing problem. Didn't Olivia see the chat? She asked. Grace felt embarrassment before anger. Olivia stood beside her, trying not to cry. In the car, she said, "Your rule did this." Grace wanted to blame the other parent for not calling. She wanted to explain that real invitations should not depend on one commercial platform. Instead, she drove to the electronics store. Olivia received a smartphone that evening. Grace did not change her mind about childhood development. She changed her behavior because the cost of acting alone had become visible in her daughter's face. That is a collective action problem. Each family may prefer a different system, but when belonging depends on following the current norm, individual families are pressured to reproduce the very system they dislike. Have you ever assumed everybody else wanted a rule that almost nobody privately supported? And how many harmful norms survive because each person is waiting for somebody else to risk leaving first? At the store, Grace configured limits. No phone after 9. No social media without permission. No devices during meals. For the first week, Olivia followed everything. Then the limits collided with real social life. Friends planned a Saturday project at 9:23 on Friday night. A classmate created a private account Olivia felt she needed in order to understand a conflict at school. The meal rule became difficult when Grace herself answered work messages at the table. Each boundary turned into a negotiation about why Olivia should live differently from everyone else. Grace became the villain of a system she had not designed. Olivia became the negotiator for pressures she had not chosen. The phone entered the family as a solution to exclusion and quickly became the subject of daily conflict. 3 months later, Grace attended a school meeting about student attention. She expected a lecture, telling parents to set stronger limits at home. Instead, the principal asked everyone to write one anonymous sentence. What change would you make if you knew most other families would make it too? Grace wrote, "No smartphones in middle school." The responses appeared on a screen. Delay smartphones. No social media until later. Phones out of bedrooms. Phone-free school. More things for kids to do outside. Grace looked around the room. The parents she had imagined opposing her were looking at the same answers with relief. The belief that everybody else wants this had survived largely because nobody had asked everybody else. A norm begins to change when private discomfort becomes public coordination. Haidt proposes 4 new norms designed to reverse what he sees as the 2 great mistakes of modern childhood: overprotecting children in the real world and underprotecting them online. The first is no smartphones before high school, roughly age 14. Children can use basic phones when communication is necessary. The goal is delaying round-the-clock access to the internet during the most vulnerable early adolescent years. The second is no social media before 16. This delays entry into algorithmic social comparison, public performance, and continuous social evaluation while identity is still undergoing intense development. The third is phone-free schools from arrival to dismissal. Not merely phones away during a lesson, but a shared day in which attention and in-person social life can return. The fourth is more independence, free play, and responsibility in the real world. Protection online must be paired with freedom offline. Otherwise, removing screens creates only an empty space children will understandably resist. These are proposed norms, not magic numbers that erase every difference among children, communities, or countries. Implementation must consider disability, medical needs, transportation, safety, family circumstances, and local law. Their power comes from sequencing and coordination. Delay is not deprivation. It is sequencing development. We do not give a child every adult freedom the moment the child desires it. We ask which capacities should develop first, and which environments demand judgment the child is still building. Grace joined 6 parents after the meeting. They agreed to contact the rest of the 7th grade families with a simple proposal: no new smartphones for the remainder of middle school. Basic phones were fine. Families whose children already had smartphones would not be shamed or excluded. They could choose stricter settings, delay social media, or join only the parts that worked for them. The parents also asked teachers to stop using student social media groups for official coordination. Invitations and school information needed a channel available to every family. The first response was silence. Then one parent wrote, "We already bought the phone. I wish this had existed 6 months ago." Another said her son took public transportation and needed maps. A third worried that a basic phone would make her daughter a target. Coordination did not remove disagreement. It made disagreement visible enough to design around. The transportation family chose a restricted smartphone without social media or an open browser. Families compared basic phone options. The school moved official information to email and its existing parent portal. Within 2 weeks, 18 families had joined at least 2 parts of the agreement. Then Olivia discovered what Grace had done. "You talked to everyone about my phone?" Grace heard the violation immediately. She had organized a community solution without including the person whose life it would change. That night, she asked Olivia what adults were missing. Olivia answered quickly, "You think the phone is the activity. It's where we find out about the activity." Removing access without changing coordination would repeat the sleepover failure. Olivia also said something Grace did not expect. She wanted less drama online. She just did not want less friendship. Children are often treated as if they are either victims of technology or defenders of it. Many are both exhausted by the system and terrified of being excluded from it. The question is not whether adults or children should win. It is whether they can build an exit in which belonging does not require continuous exposure. The parents and students created a shared weekend calendar. Anyone could add an open activity: basketball at the park, library study tables, bike rides, baking, volunteering, or simply outside from 2 until 5. No invitation could exist only inside social media. The school agreed to pilot locked phone storage the following semester after developing emergency and medical procedures. But the most difficult part was the fourth norm: Adults knew how to remove. They were less practiced at granting freedom. Grace still tracked Olivia's location during every walk. Parents remained near the park. Activities became scheduled so tightly that children had no decisions left to make. They had created phone-free supervision, not free play. The deeper reversal was uncomfortable. The smartphone had been marketed as independence, but it often extended the adult's reach into every location while moving children's social lives into spaces adults could not truly supervise. We gave children digital freedom while reducing physical freedom. The fourth norm asks us to reverse that exchange. More protection in engineered virtual worlds. More age-appropriate trust in the physical one. The community began with one Saturday afternoon. Adults remained available at a building near the park but did not organize the play. The students chose where to go within an agreed radius and had to return by 5. Olivia and 3 friends walked to a grocery store, changed their minds, bought ingredients, and attempted to make pancakes in a friend's kitchen. They forgot baking powder. The pancakes were flat. Nobody corrected the recipe before they tasted the result. The afternoon produced no impressive achievement. It produced decisions. That is what childhood is supposed to contain, not constant success, repeated chances to act, misjudge, repair, and try again before the stakes become adult-sized. Grace did not take Olivia's smartphone away overnight. They moved slowly because the device already contained friendships, photographs, school information, and social expectations. Olivia deleted one social app and kept another. The phone charged outside the bedroom on school nights. As more families coordinated offline plans, late-night availability became less socially necessary. The change was inconsistent. Some families left the agreement. New students arrived with different rules. One parent continued scheduling activities only through social media. No cultural repair is perfectly synchronized. The goal is not purity. It is changing the default far enough that healthy choices stop requiring social heroism. If you want to remember Height's 4 proposed norms, use 4 actions: delay, disconnect, free school, free play. Delay the smartphone until high school when possible, using a basic or appropriately restricted device for communication needs. Disconnect early adolescence from social media until 16, giving identity more time to develop before entering continuous algorithmic comparison. Free the school day from personal communication devices while building trustworthy emergency, medical, disability, and family contact systems. Free play means returning independence, unstructured time, responsibility, and manageable real-world risk, not merely removing a screen and assigning another adult-controlled activity. Which norm would be almost impossible for your family to attempt alone but realistic with 10 other families? Who assumes you want the current system because you have never said otherwise? And what must be added to a child's real life so that digital limits do not feel like the removal of life itself? 1 year after the missed sleepover, Olivia was 13. She still owned the smartphone. It spent more time outside her bedroom. The school day was phone-free. Her class group used a shared calendar that every family could access. On a Friday afternoon, a sleepover location changed again. This time, the host's mother updated the shared calendar and sent a basic text to every number on the list. Olivia arrived at the correct house. Nobody had to become an outsider in order for the system to improve. No family should have to rescue childhood by swimming alone against an entire culture. The answer is not returning to a perfect past. No such childhood existed. Earlier generations faced dangers, exclusions, inequalities, and suffering that nostalgia conveniently forgets. The goal is building a healthier digital age. one that preserves access to knowledge, creativity, communication, and supportive online community without turning childhood into continuous exposure. Across this series, we have watched a mother discover that tracking is not the same as psychological safety. A father learn that fear is not always evidence of danger. A band recover friendship, sleep, attention, and the ability to stop. A girl build an identity outside the endless mirror. A boy find a real-world role worthy of his competence. A grieving granddaughter recover silence, awe, ritual, and contact. A classroom protect attention as something people owe one another. And a community learn that private rules become livable when they become shared norms. The Great Rewiring did not happen because millions of parents suddenly stopped caring. It happened because reasonable people entered a new system, one convenient decision at a time. That means another rewiring is possible, not through one perfect parent, one disciplined teenager, one heroic teacher, or one government rule. Through families, schools, students, technology companies, and communities changing what childhood normally contains. More sleep, more undivided attention, more face-to-face friendship, more real responsibility, more private identity, more embodied competence, more silence and awe, and fewer hours in which a developing mind must remain available to the judgment of the entire world. Childhood is not a waiting room for adult life. It is where the capacities required for adult life are built. This is the end of our journey through the anxious generation. If you arrived here first, the complete journey begins with Part 1. Why the safest generation became the most anxious. And if these stories gave you a new way to see childhood, technology, or your own attention, subscribe to WiseMind Stories, stories that change how you see your life.